So, the FM26 beta is likely not too far away now. Ahead of the release of the game in early November, we're expecting this week we'll get our first hands on the game for anybody that's pre-ordered. But based on some recent news coming out about the game, it begs the question, should we be a little bit worried? If you don't know, towards the end of last week, we had some press previews come out regarding the game where they've had their hands on with the early access version of the game, the alpha, from early October. And there's a lot of thoughts, some positive, a lot negative, and we're going to break all of that down today. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash the like button and comment down below whether you're going to be pre-ordering the game after all of the news we're about to give you. But let's jump right into this article on the FMSCOUT website that rounds up the press previews, the good, the bad, the positive, the negatives. All of it is included in this article. Now, the press previews were by a bunch of different publications, everyone from Eurogamer, I think, did one, Forbes as well, all had their hands on the alpha build of the game. And before we get into any of the details of this article, we should say exactly that. It was the alpha build of the game from early October. We are now, towards the later end of October at the time of recording. So you'd hope a lot of the issues that have been brought to the forefront from this alpha testing have now been fixed, or at least the majority of them, at least, I would hope, have been sorted by now. Because of course, we are likely going to see the beta this week. And as you can see based on this image, there's a few bugs in there. But if you were to round up all the press previews, it could be broken down pretty simply to the fact that the game has some major breakthroughs and a lot of positives being built on this brand new engine, but it is also riddled with issues. Now, this isn't speculation. Everything that was said in these articles were by people who have played that alpha access of the game, but perhaps quite tellingly about the current state of FM at this point is that FM26, if you pre-ordered it, it was labelled as a 2-week advanced access period. Normally they call it the beta, but for FM26 it was advanced access. Now that would suggest you were getting access to the game almost in its full state 2 weeks before the game came out. The same way that, say, FC26 does. If you pre-order it, you get it a week early in its full state. It's not in test phase, but then it's changed now, and it's now being referred to as the advanced access beta, which suggests that there are going to be some bugs for us to fix, and that's fine because it is a beta. The whole idea of all the betas in previous FMs is that we will find the bugs from all of these people testing, you report them, and then hopefully they get it fixed for the release of the game. So the fact that there are bugs isn't the end of the world, I want to say that, but let's get into the general summary of these articles, what's new and what's good. Let's start with the positives first, right? So you've got improved visuals, as we've seen in a lot of the trailers. The match day, some people tell me they think it looks worse, but I don't see how they see that. The lighting is better, player movements are smoother, and the game looks more realistic. Exactly what you'd want to see with a jump to a new engine. It was also noticeable, a lot of these articles reported that player movement looks more realistic as well, like for example the action of a striker controlling the ball with their chest looks more natural, and you've also got that 2D overhead view that you get during a match now, where when you're not seeing a highlight you can see how your players are moving, which will really help tactically. And that is one of the big pluses that all of these outlets spoke about. The revolutionary tactics system, they are buzzing about it. The fact you can now set different formations for attacking, defending, this wasn't possible in the old game. You've now got in possession and out of possession, which is something that a lot of fans have been crying out for based on modern football tactical principles. We're now seeing them implemented in Football Manager, and that's great because it brings more tactical options, more complexity, not just to tactics, but of course to buy-in players. You've now got to think about, okay, this striker really suits his in possession, but out of possession, is he going to do the work? Is he going to trap back? Those kind of things. And of course, with this new tactical system, you are getting new roles too. Names like Mezzala and Raumdeuter are now going to be called channel midfielder, and other footballing terms which maybe to FM fans might seem a bit alienating, but it is kind of bringing the normal terms from real football into FM. Now those FM specific terms, like I spoke about, the Mezzala, the Raumdeuter, they are gone, but maybe that's for the best because a lot of new Queen players didn't necessarily know what they meant, whereas channel midfielder at least does what it says on the tin. So hopefully these kind of new names will make it better for new players, and as old players will get used to it in some time, I'm sure. And women's football as well is getting a lot of praise. They've built the world's largest women's football database. The females have different animations built in and detailed stats to make it as realistic as the men's game. And whilst there are fewer leagues available than the men's, that's because there are less leagues in the world for women's football, and they're going to build on this year on year. So for those of you that are wanting to try women's football, it's all there and it looks like it's going to be great fun. And for those of you that are going to complain, there's no point. If you don't want to play women's football, you don't have to. It's in the game. You're not forced to play it. But anyway, let's move on to what needs fixing and the negatives. Now, I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of bugs, and that is discussed in this article, mainly to do with the user interface. Some of these bugs come within a match, and I'm hoping a lot of these will be fixed. But then there's also some stuff that isn't fixable, but we'll get into them in a few seconds because I need to talk about this. But let's get in to the major technical problems. As of early October, again, alpha build, hopefully a lot of these have been fixed. There were 430 different bugs reported. Now in game, it's been reported that a lot of players are freezing or moving in jerky ways, and we'd hope that when we get access to the beta ourselves, a lot of this will be fixed. But again, the whole point of the beta is to try and iron out even more bugs, but I'm hoping it will be less like 430 and maybe more like 100 that we can work with, and maybe that'll be a little bit better, as crazy as the number 100 still sounds. It does say here, performance limits. Some of these reports have said the graphics are held back because they're trying to make the game work on old laptops too. I don't necessarily hate that. You're not alienating your old audience, and hopefully the longer we stay on this Unity engine, the more modern the game gets, people can catch up with their laptops and whatnot, and won't be using potatoes from 2010. So I don't necessarily hate the fact that the game also panders to that old laptop kind of audience, because that is a big portion of people that play FM. We don't all have gaming PCs. So while some of these media outlets are saying performance limits because of that are a negative, I'm not going to hate on that too much. The one thing I will hate on is the player face models, which look unnatural and creepy. Strange faces, it says here. And this is where I need to talk about something that you might have seen on social media recently. Now, all of this information comes from leaks from people playing on the alpha, so these people probably shouldn't be sharing this information where not everything should be finalized, but at the end of the day, it's out there on social media. If you search Football Manager, you will see them everywhere. Different FM creators are talking about it, but it's the new gen faces. Now, I've been saying for a while, I've wanted one of the big features of FM26 on this new Unity engine with the official Premier League license, the World Cup license, to have better looking faces that look even semi-realistic, but by all reports, they've got worse. Now, I'm not going to show it here, but if you go on the internet, on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and you put something in that says FM26 new gen faces, you'll see them everywhere, and you'll see that somehow they've got worse. I don't know how. They look creepy, they look weird. I don't know why they thought it'd be a good idea to have these in the game. I know they've announced recently that international management is coming in an update in FM26. I hope new gen faces get sorted, because for me, that's even more important. These newly generated players, these wonder kids that you want to get behind and develop, but then a lot of them look like some golem-like creature. So I think that's something they really needed to fix, and they didn't do it. And the fact that these articles are reporting on it as well, these people that have had access to the game, it's not looking good. But the big thing where there's been a lot of issues and a lot of the reported bugs coming out about the game are all to do with the user interface. Now this year, FM has been rebuilt on a brand new engine, of course, the Unity engine, and the user interface has been built from the ground up using this new tiles and card system where if you want to find more information about something, you click in and it pops up, and in theory, it was meant to be more intuitive, more effective at getting the information across and not cramming you with too much info. But as reported by these articles in the alpha, there's apparently many helpful features missing, and these menus just aren't working right. Sometimes the menus don't have a back button, so you might click into something to get some more information, but then you can't go back, so you have to return all the way to the main screen. This new tile and card system apparently sometimes requires more clicks than previously to get the information you wanted, which might be intentional, but that's not doing what it should be doing, which is making the game flow nicer and be more intuitive. It says many helpful features are removed, and there is a big bug list here that you can go through in your own time if you want to. I will link this article in the description, but one of them that I couldn't believe was missing was the fact that you used to be able to hover over a player and there was a little indicator with the letter I, which if you hovered over, you'd get a bit of info about, say, a player's attributes. That's now been removed. I don't know why that would want to be removed, but it has been. There is apparently a helpful addition of a bookmark feature, which allows you to get access to the areas of the game that you like the most and use the most often, but the fact the user interface, a big part of the game and arguably where you spend your most time in FM, isn't working properly, if people start seeing that on the beta and there's lots of bugs, it's not going to go down very well. Now, the bottom line is there are some big changes, and the core of the game has been successfully launched on this new Unity engine, which bodes well for the future. They can definitely develop this with a new tactical system, the better in-match graphics, but there's a lot of bugs. Now, as it does say here, these bugs need fixing before November, the official release. If there's bugs in the beta, that is kind of how it's meant to be. I'm hoping there's not 460 bugs and we can actually see what the game will be like, but hopefully we can report and help fix most of these bugs before the game's release. But one thing that is brought up a lot in these articles is the fact that the game feels very different and confusing. It's a big culture shock if you are used to how FM has looked in recent years, and it does say you're going to need to stick with it to appreciate the improvements, which might not be something that a lot of old FM fans give time for, but it's going to hit us all. We're all going to have to get used to it. We're going to be making tutorials about a game that we don't even know how to play yet. I will hold my hands up and say I've got no alpha access. I've not seen the game myself. What we will see is a game with a bold new direction, great potential, as long as they can fix the bugs before the launch of the official game. And then there's a whole list of bugs here, which I could go into, but I'm not going to go into them all. If you want to go and find them, you can by looking at this article. But to show you the kind of bugs that there is one that says when you're making substitutions, if you click on a player's profile, I don't know, to see whether they'd be a good sub to make, it then reverts every substitution that you've made. Those kind of things need to be fixed, else it's going to make the game an unbearable experience for many a player. But what do you think? After all the reviews have came out, are you excited? Were you hoping new gen faces get fixed? Personally, I expected bugs. I'm not too bothered about that as long as they all get ironed out before release, or at least the majority. But the thing about the new gen faces, they need updating. The fact they look arguably worse than they ever have done, and FM12 new gen faces look better, that's a big problem for me in a game that's really trying to sell itself now as a game that's getting licenses, Premier League faces, kits for the World Cup, proper branding, to then have your star striker that gets developed in your academy look like Dobby. It's totally bonkers, the fact that hasn't been sorted. But there we go. Let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll see you, I guess, with the next video when the beta drops.